all men. We're speaking to all men, to anybody that's willing to listen. And I urge you to heed the messages and the discussions we have here on Manhood, where this is always a space of courage for men. Today, we're talking about generational differences. Let that sink in for a moment. Generational differences. And wherever you sit on that age gap is certainly going to impact you, because whether you're on the younger side, Gen Zs, the Gen X, the Gen Alphas, and those before, and then on the other side you have the boomers, the millennials, the whatever they're called these days. But there's certainly one thing is without a doubt is there are differences. And how do we navigate those differences, which is the big thing that we're here to talk about here today. So to my right, Bertrand Blackman. I'm just going to say Nikolai's dad. I know you have so many other titles that we can fit into there, but for today's purposes, you're Nikolai's dad. And Nikolai's dad, Bertram's right. We have Nikolai Blackman, who himself has a lot of titles. Give them that wave. So the 2023 World Junior Champion in 50 free. And for those who don't understand swimming, 50 free is the blue ribbon event, as they would say, like in Olympics, where you have the 100 meter. 50 meter free is that particular discipline or that particular event. So, and where the national championship does that fall into? But we could talk about that a bit some more, but just to get Johanse in the picture here, and Johanse IODK, behavior change consultant. So guys, we're talking about generational differences. So there's a lot to unfold there. And I'm glad, I think this is the first time, Johanse, we've had a father and son.
Yes.
To be able to,
really?
So congratulations for what that's worth. And so share the pleasantries for now, because I'm sure as we start to unfold, there might be a bit of, hey, I didn't know that's where it was coming from or where he was thinking. But that would help, because this for all intents and purposes, call it a therapy session, really benefits each and every one of us sitting on these chairs, and also those who are listening, because every single time we have one of these shows, I learn something. I leave here with one viewpoint and I arrived with another. And also sometimes when we play these things back, we're like, wow, that really was quite profound. Whether it came from my lips or someone else's lips, it really is a mover and shaker. So thank you for being here.
As you say, generational, right, difference. I'm glad you said that, because it's to acknowledge there is a generational difference. Every generation have a difference, but sometimes we have the tendency, I would say more the older generation to the younger generation. And when I say older, it doesn't mean old or elderly, just older than, to want to compare their situation as the same to our current generation. And sometimes even from the younger to the older, not understanding that, yes, we live in the same world, right, empirically, but we live in different generations of the world, different generations
see
of the
through
time.
a different lens.
Correct.
Yeah. So like even when people talk about football, I always see, now there's this whole discussion, which in itself is a generational difference, because you see it through social media. But now you have the difference with people comparing Messi being the GOAT versus Pele versus Cristiano Ronaldo. And I could understand the Cristiano Ronaldo Lionel Messi debate, but when you start to look at Johan Cruyff and Pele and these guys, there's really no comparison. It's a difference. I mean, the boots that Pele would have played with, the circumstances, the technology available to him, the food, the ball. I mean, so when you think he scored 1,000 goals back then, under those circumstances in comparison to now, I mean, it is really. But again, we're not here to debate that. But I'm just talking about why these differences are come about. And Bertrand, you could say, for example, I'm sure, Nicola, you hear this all the time. Back in my day, we did this, and to you, you're probably thinking, yeah, but I'm not in your day.
I had 10 minutes ago. I heard that.
Where you're like, yeah, but we have the technology now. Why am I still doing long division? Why am I still doing all of these things that be considered archaic when they're not going to be necessary again, like with the AI?
Correct.
So what are some of those? I want to get into the head of of a young man. I mean, I'm not old myself, but yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not old. I'm not old. I might still take in a 15-meter race, you know. But you know, you hear all these things like sus and it's a whole language that is starting now, and I can't recall when I was growing up if the language that my dad and I had, even though I was listening to that.
I'm sure it was Nikolai. How old are you?
How old do I look?
11. How old are you?
11. 20.
All right, so 20 years old, right? As a 20-year-old, when you see people of an older generation, I say older, let's say 25 to 30 years old, can you relate to a 25 or 30-year-old, or maybe even a 35-year-old?
I mean, in school, like my friends are like 2 and 3 years older than me, like the people I normally like line with. And I mean, I always tell them, damn, you need to get some friends your age. And then they start yelling at me saying, you're the one lineman with us.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah, but it's still not get friends their age.
But like what you're saying is, can you connect? Do you feel like there's a disconnect, even with their, like, you know, you're sort of leveling up, so to speak, and you may become wiser by what they may speak about happening in their day. But do you feel disconnected or not fully at home by associating with persons older, or do you look like a 30 or 40-year-old? Because I ask myself sometimes, when I consider my dad, when I go back in my memories and think at what my dad would have been at 40, and me thinking, wow, he real old man, with them real old people, and then now at 40 plus, let's just say, I feel that I could compete and ramp with them. But how they then are probably looking at me and my friends and us in a party and dancing, and they probably like, look at these geriatrics, just, you know, like, why did you just sit down and drink some coffee or tea or something like that? Like, how do you view?
I feel like I'm close to, like, even though it's 2 or 3 years, I'm like close to the age. But I feel like for guys like around that age, we all like think the same in a way. Like the whole college team is different ages, but we all like, we're still boys. Like we're all just fooling around and stuff like that. But in terms of like my cousins on my mom's side, they make it obvious. Like I'm probably 10 to 12 years younger than the last one in that generation. So like I never met my grandfather on that side. So they would always have like stories about him spanking them and stuff like that when they misbehave, and then they'd be like, Nickel, I don't know nothing about that, you know, back in the day. And then I'd be like, you're just old, I'm young.
You know, funny you should say that about corporal punishment, right? Because I read something yesterday, and it shows 10 things that were in the past that today are outlawed, and so 10 things in history that were normal back then that today is outlawed. So they were talking about child labor, for example. That child labor from the age of 5 and upwards was normal, and the expectation of death and all these things was a normal thing. People, drug companies doing tests on people, random, and things happening was par for the course because it was seen as science. And in that 10, believe it or not, was licks. That you know, people getting hit with a stick or slipper and these things like that, and that was things that people can't fathom. And I'm thinking, hey, that was par for the course for me. I grew up on that. That was gravy. You know, like, you know, you have gravy or ketchup with everything. Like any little slip up is licks in school from your principal, your dean, and now you can't even.
No.
You can't even.
Not from the school. From him, there's a difference. I grew up on that, but school, nah, they won't put a like finger on you if they, because then you're about like getting sued from the parents and stuff like why you beating my child when I'm allowed to beat my child and stuff like that.
So you can't even fathom a world before social media, for example, you know, like, because everything is just there, information is there.
You're 20 years old, so
that's a world. So that technology, cell phones, all of these things. I mean, 20 years ago, we're in 25 now, so that's 2005. So basically, you were born when we were qualifying for the World Cup for the first time, right? And that was big celebration here in Trinidad. I remember whining in Zen. and you were came to this world, right?
This is Zen, that's a long time ago.
But Zen's still there. You know, it maybe not function. It comes up in a nostalgic environment for a party, but just to put that in, again, the expression on his face.
20 years ago, I was now in university.
Well, there you go.
Jesus.
There you go. But before we get into, because again, I always say this particular segment of the show is where we just generally talk about generational differences and then we go into deeper meanings about it. But in terms of even your age gap, and maybe one of the reasons that you do associate with persons older than you is because in your particular profession, you've had to grow up and be in environments more than the usual 20-year-old or in 15, 16, 17, 18, because you're competing in front of the world. So the nation, the world, you know, your communities. So you'd have been in that environment much more than the average when you'd have started, and now you're off at university again. More growth, being more and more removed from that sort of parental environment, which might surely couldn't be easy for you, seeing him kind of go off and having, you know, from that helicopter management.
Agreed. It was different, but again, bringing it back, it was something that was always being discussed as a kid growing up. We always used to speak about to Nikolai that, you know, that he's going to be going abroad. So locked into his mind, he knew that at the age of 15, 16, back to Canada, he knew we were talking about universities from very early. So that was something that he knew inside of himself growing up, that this day, and he was progressing towards that day. Coming closer to that particular time, it was like he wanted to, what's going on. So he knew that part of it, you know.
Is he want to get out or get away?
He knew that. He knew that part as well, you know. But again, for the you know, you were discussing in terms of how that time and this time. So we kind of created an environment where we were kind of like trying to keep it as basic as possible in terms of his foundation, even though we knew that the time will come when it will be out of our control and he need to take ownership to it. So we tried our best to ensure that we were giving him enough resources where he could move on from there, because we weren't the ones going abroad. He would have been the ones going abroad, and he would have to take on all of these challenges and all of these differences, as well as trying to focus in terms of getting his act together and trying to, you know, manage his school, manage his swimming, and manage himself going forward. And
but you know, as you're putting those things in place, and as wisdom and that's experience, but I'm almost 80% sure that it wasn't being received like that. I'm almost 80% sure that in his mind, it's like, I can't wait to get away for levels of freedom. Talk.
Yeah, low-key. I just wanted to go.
So in other words, sometimes, you know, they talk about even love languages where you're giving someone wine and really all they want is water. But and only in hindsight later on he may then go, just like you would discuss with me about when he was doing breaststroke and all these other strokes. And at that point, you know, it was the coach who had to be the one to be the enforcer, and you would just guide. And then later on now he would recognize what you were trying to do. But at that point, there's going to be all this tension. And I ask myself, how do you manage any build-up of resentment during that period? Because even when they do, hopefully, you hope that later on, when they have their own children or before that they see what you were trying to do, that there's not such a gap that you can't repair that, and you're just sort of moving on. How do you view? What's your relationship like now with your dad? I won't tell him.
I mean, it's very different from when I was younger. Like, I was telling him the other day, actually. Like, when I was younger, he knew probably more about swimming than me. But like nowadays, now that I'm like in college and like kind of have to fend for my own in a way, like he's not gonna be at the pool sitting down like all the time anymore. So it's just like me training and like picking up on stuff. And I think my eyes have opened a lot more towards like swimming and like detail wise. So like I feel like nowadays I will know more about swimming than him in a way. But
do you feel he respects that, or you feel you still have that confrontation?
So I have that confrontation. Yeah. And then in terms of like all those events, I realized that when I got up at school, I think it wasn't recently, it was like probably my sophomore year or freshman year. Like before in Marlins, they was putting into all these events, and you wondering, why am I swimming all events from 50 freestyle all the way to 10K? I hated 10K. Like I used to like open water, and then it used to be one lap, you know, you just swim, look at the fishes underwater. Then somehow I ended up doing 10K and I have to strategize when to eat food in my race, and I didn't like it anymore. But
you didn't like the race, or you didn't like swim? Did that help you start?
I didn't like 10K or 5K. Like I just stopped liking open water. But I mean, it was like fun because then you get to hang out on the beach with your friends and stuff. But going up to college, I realized like having all those races underneath your belt, you would be looked as like they would look at you rather than someone that's swimming like a specific stroke. Like if they had just a one-trick pony, they would like look past that and be like, oh, this kid has like all these races under his belt. It's like he's a versatile swimmer. And they would look at that person over the person that swims one event, and you'll be quicker like picked to swim for their college team rather than that other person. So it kind of helped me.
That's good.
And how do you bridge the gap? Do you feel, I mean, again, we could talk a lot more as we go along in terms of living vicariously through someone, but do you feel that you have learned the art or managed based on also actually asking him, not just thinking that you are being a good dad, but managed the dance between what you can see ahead of time is good for him and what you know he's not going to receive at this moment because of how life is in front of him. He's not going to have that wisdom, and building up where you may see a slight disconnect.
So that is a phenomenal question. That's $1 million question. And most of the time, this is where the problem comes in. For me, to Nikolai, that I never wanted to get too savvy in the technical part of this. Even though I knew it, even though my forte was in the motivation. But to get into the technical aspects of it, I've been around the coaches, I hear the jargon and stuff like that, but that's not my forte. And most parents, especially parents and them who know that part, what they do is go back and unravel what the coach taught.
But wait, you said motivation. Did you feel motivated? Did you feel pressure from your dad to perform? Like, were there those moments? Did you feel that? Because again, it's one thing when we believe we're doing something, but how it's being received. So when you say motivation, I know come on, but when we say motivation, so my aspect of the work was the managing aspect of the work. We need to go this way. So coach saying we need to go to these things. This is what we're going. So I looking 2-3 months down the road. We need to get to these events. I looking in terms of that. So that is where we stand as parents, or that's where we supposed to be. What the coaches and them doing on their end there, that is their part of the work. Our work is we hearing this and we connecting the dots, because this is really a dream that you have. They walking into a dream that you establishing here. They didn't particularly want to swim in it. They could do anything as a child. But what it is you doing, you laying the groundwork. And as you grow in, you now have to release that dream because you are aware what this could do. You are aware that this could bring university education. You are aware that this could lead you to the Olympics. But a 4-year-old child, 5-year-old child, they don't know that. All they want to do is swim or enjoy the surf. What you doing is that as you walk this road, you making sure that you pulling all the weeds and all these different things, and they walking straight up into it. We need to go Europe, we need to go Carifta, we need to do this, we need to do that. You are the one. You got to talk about resources. We're talking about money. We're talking about airline. We're talking about hotel. At 7-year-old child who understand that, you know. So is it then, Johan, say that at up to a certain age group that you know, you always say parents live vicariously through their children. Is it that that's a norm? So it's not really that. It's not really a term to use. It's what needs to happen to enforce or to encourage that discipline, as opposed to the mentality of, oh, you could be all you can be. You can be whatever it is. No, you have to instill a level of discipline. And at what age then does a child then get to say, I want to do this. I want to be my own man?
Well, I wouldn't say is a norm that parents want to live vicarious versus it's common. right? And I'm putting it that way because some years ago, actually, I did a survey with parents, right? A sample of parents in Trinidad and Tobago to find out why you have children. Just whatever the reason, whatever you said. And more than 50% of the answers were nothing about the child. Right? It was to accomplish their goals. I want to give my father a grandson before he died. It was nothing to do with the child, right? And when the child came into their life, what it did, and tying it into the vicarious, many times it brings out this is from what the parents said, it brings out a part of them that they didn't expect that it would have. So,
which it could be good and bad, good or bad.
I don't want to say good or bad. I don't want to use
Right.
those qualifiers. Just expected and unexpected.
Right.
Right. And we hear the age-old cliche: "There's no manual to parenting," and that's because when the child was born or children born, you don't know what side of you comes out, but the side of you that comes out is important, because most times what comes out is a part of you that you haven't dealt with. Now, I'm bringing that there because sometimes when it comes out and a parent is unaware, they may be perpetuating certain behaviors and they have no idea, and then wondering why my child reacting to me like that. So sometimes it's intentional, which is I want my son or my daughter to do this because either I never get to do it, or my dream was to have a child doing this, or my dream was this, so my child have to do it. Or sometimes it is, well, they would say, I just want the best for a child, but they have these behaviors coming out and they're not sure why. But as we go into that, we'll go to a break now, and then we'll come back and discuss.
When others surrender to the unhealthy, we rise. When they conform to the status quo, we defy.
We believe energy is earned, not given. We fearlessly defend our bodies from the inside out.
With every sip, we unleash our greatness. We boost, we nourish, we cleanse, we recharge.
We are rebels without a pause, because a supernatural life is one worth fighting for.
My man, Andre.
Good night, Anthony.
7 years with the company, and we couldn't do it without Antoine.
Happy birthday, dear Alejandro. Happy birthday to you.
Who's Angelo?
We're like coworkers who don't forget your name.
I'm Angelo.
CG United. Good like that.
This is ManHOOD, and we're talking about generational differences. I'm here with 3 old men.
Good.
Good word.
And as you're saying that, Dad, what is one thing when you're looking at your son that is a stark difference from your generation to his generation? Now, that's a general. It don't have to be necessarily for swimming. It could be for anything.
Yeah.
We were now talking about Annika.
Yeah. I think that I always say that we went through hard knocks.
Okay.
And I don't think my son did.
But do we?
Wait, who fault that is? That's not my fault.
I know. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, elaborate.
You see, because sometimes as parents, we kind of do you know what I mean? As parents, we kind of clear the land. We clear the land because we felt the pain and we remember the pain. And what we kind of do, we kind of like make it easy, in certain regards, as the one coming up. I was taking bus. I was using my card to go on my school bus pass to go and taking taxi to go to school. My son never do those things.
Why?
So that's saying.
Why?
Because as we elevated ourselves from that social economic group, what we did is that we made certain things easier. I was working at the age of 9 years old. So not that he didn't want to work, but because of the environment that he's swimming, he couldn't work. But I was working. I was pushing trolley and True Value back in those days, trying to make a hustle. So no disrespect to him, but his timing would have been different because we were more focused on what it is we wanted to move ahead. So that aspect of it didn't work. We literally were working hard, physically working hard, I'm saying.
How you feel about that when you hear things like those in those days? Because I'm sure that must just make your eyes want to roll in the back of your head when you hear in those days and what he did.
I could roll my eyes, to be quite honest. But I feel like it's a very different time. Like he's saying, we used to like lift. Some of the stories I've heard, they don't even sound believable, to be quite honest.
Like what? You can remember any?
I think I remember when I was younger, he told me he left a container, like one of those cargo ship containers. And I was in the back of the car, I was like, yeah, there's no way you did that. But I feel like it's a different time. Like he worked when he was 9, and meanwhile I started like swimming at 5, and around 9 years old I made my first national team. So it's like swimming became like serious at that point. Like it wasn't. Would you say serious? Like,
I wouldn't say serious, but it was there making sure to make the national team.
Yeah. But in life, outside of swimming, I'm just saying, if you look at it as a father and son dynamic, or in relationships like that, I mean, not everything is about blood. Whoever is that figure in your life. When I hear people, even my father or his father may have said, I'm working hard and you don't have it like I had it. Isn't that why we work hard? Don't we, you always hear children say, I didn't ask to come in this world, but you worked hard so that Nikolai can swim and do what he did. Because if he had to be in True Value or lifting a cargo container, right, he wouldn't be representing Trinidad and Tobago now.
So I'm going to say to you again that there are a lot of similarities within my generations. I think we will be what we'll call the age baby boomers. I think I'm on the tail end of that. But I'm just saying to you, with my parents and there are a lot of similarities. Even the games that we would have played. And we could talk about going and getting water at the stand. My mom could say it too. I could say it too, because I did that. The outhouse, we experienced these things.
But you want them to experience that?
No. But I'm just saying to you is that things evolve after the 80s and into the 90s. It just got, and even now, there's a major difference between 5 years. Kids who are 15 years, Nicholas 20 years, they're different. Those children are like night and day. We just got to find out how to relate to these kids. But
when you say they're like night and day, give me more of an understanding through your lens what that looks like according to kids these days.
Okay, so it's normal for you to FaceTime. When I do FaceTime, it's like, oh my God, you really believe you're doing this? It's normal for us to pick up a cell phone and communicate. For us to go and look for a telephone booth at the corner, or better yet, go home and make our telephone call, or better yet, go textile and call it the night, because I'm just saying to you, this is what we were doing. When we doing these things now, it's like, you know what we were doing, but to them, they do not know these things. What they are aware of is that this picks up a call, and I could call anywhere in the world for free. There was a time when you used to call somewhere else for $60 a minute, and the national our salary minimum wage was $2. Remember that? But you might remember that. I don't know.
I remember the $6. I remember the $6.
Nikolai say we all old, but I not that.
But the thing about it is that the time was much slower back then, so we were evolving over a longer period of time. But now everything is changing within 2-3 years. It changed, and now AI coming is even worse.
But with technology, I mean, that's the whole point of technology, to make life better. Not necessarily easier in certain circumstances, but better so that we can go on to do other things. Don't you think in Nikolai's generation, generations after, with this technology that's already there, I mean, technology is going to advance, but it's not going to advance where it's going to be wow for their generation, to the point of like us going from, like you said, coin and letters to now a cell phone and FaceTime and WhatsApp and all of these things. That gap is now a technological gap that to you to the generations after, they may not be having the discussions of our stuff is going to be in a museum.
So let me tell you something. Again, I hear all of this lovely thing with the AI and all this thing. There was a time I knew my phone numbers of everybody. I could have processed all these telephone numbers.
Got a Rolodex.
I cannot do it now. And AI, I just recently started with chat. Is it GTP?
ChatGPT.
Oh,
I love that.
Guess what? Where before I was writing up all these lovely things and catching my tail to do it, now you know what? I don't have to do it no more. It's doing it for me. So you know what? In the next 20 years, you would have lost that. So the same way we lost the numbers, being able to have those numbers in our brain, that is our next thing in the next 25 years we would have lost. And I'm just saying to you, while we're saying that it will make life easier, I remember when Al Gore said to us that same thing with coming on with the internet, and the internet will make us work less, and we would have the best life that we possibly have. Guess what? More wars, more everything. Ain't the best life, eh? I just say it.
But is there a fear? I wanted to come in here, but is there a fear? Because I'm hearing you, Bertrand. I mean, even though I feel like I'm a bit more technologically advanced in terms of accepting of what is happening around me. Is there a fear that, like with me and having an 8-year-old son, to the fact that there is going to come a point that I can't even keep up. Like my brain cannot compute as quickly as their brains are going to be turning because they're growing up into it. Swiping on these iPads and different things. Do you feel like there's a level of fear that you may not have acknowledged with regards to the distance it's going to, like you're going to become like a dinosaur, or people are going to look at you like a relic?
I don't see it. I don't feel the fear. Because I know what I know. I'm a hybrid, meaning that I am from one era and I am also a part of this era. And I'm saying to you that I am not throwing away the old one because I saw value in that. Likewise, I do recognize on this side that this have a lot of things that we can do here and we could progress nicely along. But I'm saying to you, if we're not careful with this thing, we could end up literally throwing away the baby and the bathwater at the same time.
What I was going to say to your point first, Robert, and then I'll come to that. You were saying that because of technology, this new generation, they may not have that stark difference. And he was saying like a 20-year-old to 15-year-old is night and day. And I think I agree a little more with that, because even though, let's say to us, the older generation, right, we see an AI as one thing or technology as one thing. But recently, and let me ask Nikolai, you ever use a chat GPT or AI pen?
What's that?
Right. That's something that's something I discovered. A 10-year-old was telling me about that, and he showed me. I actually ordered one. It's a pen where you just use it and you scan the word, and the pen itself tell you like a math sum. You could put it there and it tell you the answer, or you could put it to translate. You put Chinese and it'll tell you the English or whatever language you want. Okay. Right. So
like a wand.
So you notice, even though he is 20, the thing that comes out now, even he can't keep up with it. So it could be just now. A 20-year-old, I mean, I don't want to be ridiculous, but an 18-year-old may not be able to even relate to a 20-year-old. The pacing move, at least this time, this generation. So that's one. Two is, and then what you're saying before in terms of relating to the generation. And ironically, you always saying you're all having a discussion about this. This morning I was talking to my mom about this. Is that what a research said that as technology advances and we come into a cycle of things where we keep doing the same thing repeatedly, our brain actually shuts down part of our brain because that part of the brain goes on automatic, which means over time, like if you don't use your muscle, you'll eventually lose it. It's the same thing with your brain, right? So the less processes we have to do something, the less skills that we have. And just adding, that we have a reward system in our brain, right? Most times they hear people talk about dopamine. We get dopamine, but dopamine is part of our entire process of something. So it's about 4 different or 5 different senses, if I remember. So when I get up to go and pick up the encyclopedia to find what it is, and right, so that each part of it working. When you go to bring water,
you guys real true in your age, boy.
Yeah. When you go and bring water and you come back and you bathe,
clothing, right?
But if you get it immediately, you get the dopamine hit, so you feel good. But because you didn't go through a process.
Correct.
So, and then Nikolai, what you said about when you, now that you have gone away and you are experiencing new things, right? And you're seeing things from a new light, and then they were telling you all the experiences you had before. So even though you didn't like the open water swimming, right, you realize it had value in it. Right? And I'm saying that because that is important. So even though we want to make the generation or life better or easier for a child, putting him through a process always has value.
Yeah. But did you recognize that value at the time, or only later on realize that, wow, when I'm going to the university, you realize, hey, you know, I'm not a one-trick pony, and I'm glad that my dad kept me in this event, so now I'm seeing the reward. Because at that point, you may not have seen it. It's sort of a rhetorical question, because I'm almost sure at that point you're like, why the hell am I doing this thing? But how do you see, because when you opened, you said, I'm here with 3 old people. How do you see our generation, and what are some of the frustrations that your generation experienced with ours?
Boy,
we had time.
What was it? A couple of days ago, I think it might have been yesterday. Dad's on Facebook scrolling, and I was just like, we were coming from Tobago, so I'm just like chilling in the seat listening to my music. And he goes, look what this guy now make out of mud. It was a messy thing. And I was like, Dad, that's AI. He just, oh. And just goes back scrolling. Then he came to one of my meets the other day, and we like went to get food together, like me, my mom, and him. And the drive was like 5 minutes, like not even 5, like per like 15 minutes. It took us down there like 30 minutes to get there, just because he kept missing routes because of the maps. And then he goes, back in my day, you would have a big map right here. And I'm like, how would you drive if you have a big map there? But I was getting angry. Like, I feel like I'm so accustomed to like technology, but at the same time, like I still go out and do stuff. Like, you know, what they say is dumb kid stuff. Like, I mean, the same kids that I line with up there, like, what do we do? I have a skateboard, so he has a truck, so, you know, I got a rope, hang on to it, and then he, like, pulls me on the skateboard. I mean, it's, like, stuff that you could get hurt by, and, like, I mean, you could show all y'all got scars that y'all could, like, have a story about. I mean, I didn't follow anything. And then he also had a pellet gun. And he was like, Nikolai, how much? Like, we do a bunch of dumb stuff up there. Like, he was like, how much do I have to pay you to get shot by this pellet gun? And I'm like, I'll do it for free. So, like, we went in my garage in my house up there. And then, if there's one thing I realized about Jordan, he never reaches to 3. He'd be like, okay. Like, he'd be like, I'll count from 3. He'd be like, 3, 2, and then he would shoot me with the pellet gun. And then I started screaming at it. And then we also have a dog up there, and my roommate got like, oh God, this might be bad. But they don't know. He got a shot collar for the dog. And then Jordan, again, was like, Nikolai, how much would I have to pay you to like hold this in your hand and let me shock you? I was like, I'll do it for free. So I like, he never reaches 1. Every time you like 3, 2, and the next thing you know, I'm throwing it away.
All right.
Guy got shot.
Dad, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
And the term dumb, you know, when we say dumb kid stuff, because we ourselves would have done dumb kid stuff. What?
We were the days of the horse, and they are the days of the dog. I think we used to call everybody horse long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear it again. I'm happy where I could easily put myself forward and backward. That's how I see. But going back a little bit, when I say that how I put for the races, I didn't do that, because I do have no experience in that. That's what the coaches will do. So the coaches are using their wisdom. They were the ones who will create the environment for them. Remember, I was not one of those parents who would be going and tell a coach, well, I want Nikolai to swim X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, the line coaches, which most parents are. You and I talk about that all the time. Yeah, I'm like, listen.
So in this case, I remove myself from that discussion. That discussion is with coach, and the coach and them, most coaches will have an ideology or a way in which they will want to set. And in this case, our coach would have said, you know what?
But we told him plenty about swimming. I wanted to address the dumb kids part.
No. So going back to that. I mean,
because when if this is the first time you heard the story, or if it's not, I would like to know what goes through your mind at that point. Like, tell me what was the immediate thing when you heard it, whether for the first time now or then?
You had to be smart, boss. You could get hurt.
Yeah, well, that obviously, but boys will be boys.
No, you're gonna say that really?
No, what's better? Boys will be boys. Because I'm telling you,
you need saying that now.
That's what I'm saying. The only reason he's saying that is because you're on camera.
But again,
we come from a time when we were outside. Mm-hmm. We were outside doing a lot of crazy stuff. So their crazy stuff might be climbing trees, might be jumping off roofs. So just by the riverside. Didn't tell you that a breaking beach. I just saying we come from that. Their era different, but just saying, but same thing, same boys will be boys thing.
It's just something like you said. It really is different, but it's the same. Boys being boys.
Yeah, but the only thing is that, for me, if I break my leg, I break my leg. In their environment, they have something where they peg to, and they're in a process moving forward. And if you do that, you'll create instability at that point. So as a result, as a parent growing up, I will always say, hey, be careful.
Right.
My mom
based on his path, if you're breaking a leg, of course, it would mean something totally different.
Because we started to look at these things. Mm-hmm. We started. I was never on a national team, but he made a national team at either 6 years old or 7 years old. So just saying to you, okay, well, this is what this looks like. So you know what? It's like, this is a diamond. You got to produce this and make sure that you're bringing him forward. We, on the other hand, we were just part of 6. 6 children with 1 fall. We have 5 more to go. We just used to roll. I know this to my parents, but we felt loved. We felt loved. There was 6 of us, and all of us. And I guess what? I was the second to last one. And I could tell you, if you talk to my brothers and sisters, they say, "Oh, good Lord, that boy, he's not easy." So when I see Nikolai, I just smile sometimes.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a time. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes when I'm bored and I know I'm doing something dumb, I like to prank my dad.
Yeah.
It's funny. Sometimes I'll call mom just in case, like, Mom, should I do this? And she'll be like, no, your father will catch a heart attack. Like,
but you still do it anyway?
No, it depends how bad it is. There was recently, I got a tattoo with like the same kids because we won a national championship, and Dad hates tattoos. Hates them. He's like, I'm going back in the ground with no tattoo. So then I was like on Amazon shopping for something, and I saw like those little stick-on tattoos. You know when you like the little candy sticks and they have like a little tattoo in the box of like Iron Man or something? See, I'm not that old. Yeah. So I got like a whole sleeve one. And then I like called Mom, and I was like, Mom. I showed her first, and she was like, that's fake. So she obviously knew. I was like, Mom, should I FaceTime Dad? And be like, Dad, I got a sleeve. And he was like, I was like, Mom, can you be there with me just in case? She's like, no, I will not be there for you when your dad throws a fit. And then there was this one time, one of the boys on our team had to get like surgery on his arm, so he had a sling. So I took the sling from him and FaceTimed my dad. I was like, Dad, I'm in a sling. I fell down. And then he was like, oh my God! And just a howling. He was like, how are you going to do that to me? And then I like told him, oh, it's a prank. And then he got so mad. He was like, you must never play those kind of pranks on people. But I mean,
so is he dumb in your eyes? Just asking, is he dumb that he does these things for free, or that he at least should be making $1 from it? You know, at least say, hey, give me $100 US. Yeah. But before you answer that, we need to take a short break. But I want to come back with a little segment, as it's our first father and son. Likes and dislikes. That should be an interesting one. So generational differences.
Succeed with brand gratitude, and you can believe that you can achieve. Big goals, small ones too. Brand credit union, we've got you. No more waiting, that won't do. Make someday today. One life, so make it good. Live the way you know you should. With brand credit union, yes you could. Make someday today.
Live your best life today with Rand Credit Union.
Kali Matha Astrology Center, Master Karthik. 35 years experience, Indian generation astrologer. He can discuss past, present, and future. He can advise on reading hand, face, and horoscope. He would give advice for all your problems. Special guidance for broken relationships, husband and wife disputes. Can advise on bringing back loved ones. Gives unbreakable protection. Call now 275-7489. Located in Arima, Port of Spain, Debe, Curep, Chaguanas, and San Fernando.
This is ManHOOD, and we're speaking here about generational differences.
Hey.
Right, well
good
done.
one, good one.
And what we're asking is for you all to highlight some likes and dislikes about each other and even in terms of generation.
Yeah.
So anybody could go first. Some likes and dislikes.
I'll go first.
Why are you so eager to go first? That's the thing.
Okay, you go first.
No, you can go first.
No, you go first.
No, you go first.
I'm not going. Go on.
Seniority.
Okay. So one of the things I do like about Nikolai is that with kids, I see him a lot of times, and he pays a lot of attention to younger kids, and I see that they also feel comfortable around him in his space. And I was saying to him quite recently, I was in Tennessee, and I met this young lady there in the stands while we were there looking at them perform in the last invitational meet. And this lady said to me that her kids, they are in the Tennessee club swimming, and she was saying that is Nikolai your son? I said yeah. And then she said to me that how Nikolai is one of those swimmers who comes around the kids and speaks to them, and they feel reassured and stuff like that, and that he brings that type of energy. And while she was saying that, I was playing the violin, yeah, until at the end of the meet, I saw maybe like 30-40 kids in a line, all going up for his autograph, and he was there hugging them up, writing on their back jerseys, and they were all walking away with a piece of Nikolai. So I realized that he has a touch for the younger kids. Even last week at Marlin's invitational meet, when everybody was one side, and I looked over to the left, there was Nikolai with all these little kids, probably ages between 6 and maybe like 11, and they were in the Bounty Castle, and they were all having fun inside. And this boy came up to me and the boy said, "Boy, I had so much fun, and Nikolai's in there. Boy, he's the best."
Yeah.
That's why you came over?
Yeah.
He was. I think I was. I saw that moment, and Zachary Anthony was standing up next to him. Who kind of, they have a rivalry going on there.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic. But I wanted to get a bit deeper into. Apart from swimming and apart from those accomplishments, like Nikolai as your son, likes and dislikes. And when I say dislike, it's not necessarily going, "Oh, I don't like that about my son," but might be things that you might kind of go, "I see those things in me that you may not." You initially might go, "Wow, like father, like son," and things that you're. So again, it doesn't have to be, "I'm not proud of this," but things that you are seeing that you're going, "Hey, he's going to grow out of this," or "Hey, I need to look."
So I do look sometimes towards maturity. Sometimes he could be a little hot off the cuff, so he comes out, a bit harsh in some regards, and I'm saying maybe because of the age and that he have to walk into some of these experiences, because likewise I know how I was, but what kind of made me transform was through work. And working and building up all these other aspects of what it is required, punctuality, leadership and all these different things. I learned that along the way, but I learned that through the process of working. So I have a kid on the other hand who have the same thing, but he have to learn that to navigate that through what you're going to have to use, in this case, swimming and getting up early in the morning. All these things are required.
Tying it back to
likewise, for leadership. All these things. It's just that we're taking it from two different ways. I took it from work. I didn't go to university as my son did. He did. But I was outside in the work field. And those two things, there are a lot of parallels to these things. You be talking about time management and stuff like that. So Nikolai in the beginning, Nikolai wasn't time management savvy, but the swimming makes you time management savvy, because you have a certain amount of things you have to get done within a particular window. if you're in business, different. You can be opening your store. Our family come from business. You can be opening your store when you want to open your store. 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock means 8 o'clock. So for me, time was always something that I focused on, as I evolved as well. Again, people skills and stuff like that. And again, to my son and to this particular generation, not being accessing, people talking on a one-on-one basis and using this internet business, that aspect of it dies. So then I have issues with that, because if it is, we talk about that, if it is that you're not responding to people, you're not communicating with people, I read in your whole body language while I'm talking to you. You don't have that when it is you're on your cell phone. You don't have that when you're on the internet. All those things gone. We were outside there. We like hunters, and we smelling the environment. We observing our entire environment, and we communicating through those things. They don't come from that. So that's where sometimes the issues come from. And again, you can't change these things. You can't go back and do it. You just had to kind of hyperlink over these things and find a way around this, because nothing will be changing. You just had to find a way to connect and move forward.
Before Nikolai responds, would you say like father, like son? Would you accept that?
I wouldn't say. Nikolai is his own. Nikolai is his own. I wouldn't say that. I'm different. I believe I'm different than my son.
Yeah, I think we're very different as well.
Yeah. So what are things that you not just like or dislike about your father, specifically as a father, but also in maybe your treatment or respect or lack thereof, but also about the generation?
One thing I like is, even up to today, he's still talking. He was telling me he still talks to his football friends and stuff like that. That is a very hard thing for me to do. I told him today I have not stepped foot in Fatima since the last day of CXC. I have not gone back. And I recently saw my friends after last time I saw them was 2 Decembers ago, last time I lined with them. So I respect how he keeps in contact with everyone still, whether it's, spamming photos of me to everybody's phones. I'm sure you get that. I'm sure.
But I'm just, the irony of that now that communication is so much easier, that it's now less. It's now happening less, and you haven't been in touch. And
to your point, it's the same thing.
I know you use the word ironic, but the easier something is, the less we value it.
Yeah, it's the same point he made.
Right, and that's not even coming from a malicious point of view or a negative point of view. That's just human nature. If I get something easy, I wouldn't really value it. Right, and
comes back to the dopamine you were talking about. A lot of times when you don't have a bill to it, and you've had to work for it, and it just comes like watching, whether it be porn or whatever the case may be, it's just right in front of you, or someone just comes and drops a box of fast food, and you didn't have to do anything for it. But if you had to say, you had to climb a mountain and had to train for weeks to get that, when you get that, the dopamine rush is going to be different and lasting.
And that's the thing, and that is what I really can't remember the exact part of the brain, but we all crave for that satisfaction. I think on our previous episodes we spoke about that. Human beings in general, we want satisfaction, right? And
reward,
And when we get that satisfaction is only when we will feel at peace. So either way, and this is the irony, as you say. I remember when I was growing up playing video games, right? I remember the first video game was 8-bit, right? Atari and things like that. Things that didn't really look real, right? And then we were so marveled when it moved forward to all these things now have virtual reality. And then, I don't know if you still play it at your age, but lots of children play Roblox, right? So Roblox is
I'm a grown man. What am I doing playing Roblox?
Right, perfect. But Roblox have plenty small games in it, mini games in it. And when I look at these games, the graphics is almost the same thing as Atari, right? As what I grew up with, and I was like, that didn't make sense to me at first, because if technology is so advanced, why would children find so much joy in playing something that looked like this? And in doing some research, I realized is that thing. When we look at the Atari, and the imagination we had to use, so that was a process. Your brain had to imagine what it is. So then we get the result as this is what it is. I come up with an image. when we have virtual reality, there's no imagination. It might be admiration, which is the dopamine we get in. But after a while, you see something look real, it don't really worry you anymore. So now we actually reverting, quote unquote, we're going back to imagination is still necessary. So that's even why he would do the antics that he's doing, because all of us need that satisfaction. If you're getting things too easy, even though that's just circumstantial for the generation, you still need to feel that.
But isn't it ironic in this particular case, because I'm not going to let you off the hook, I want to hear your likes and dislikes, but to say that when your reaction to Roblox, and it's so common that when we're younger, we want to be older, and we want to associate with older people, but then when we're older, the same thing that we wanted to be, we're trying to be younger. We're doing all sorts of things to Benjamin Button to try and get back to that point of youth. But I really want to hear Nikolai's perspective, because we on this show have had many, yes, a lot of younger generation, but I think Nikolai, from all intents and purposes, is the youngest person we may have had on the show.
What kind of young people are
Certified Samson, we've had Junior Lee.
He is not young.
We see, it's that generation.
So again, not young. Younger than us, and so from your perspective, what does I'm still trying to get, what does our generation or the look like to you through a lens of a younger person, and presence that more with your dad, like when he said about going to Canada and you were like, the expression on your face was, I couldn't wait to bust out, to get out. What does that feel like? Like, what is it? How is it you see it versus how your dad would have seen it?
That Canada thing started when I was like very young, because it was just to say, you're going back to Canada soon, and it started before. Form 1. No, what do you call it?
It started when you're probably about 7 years old.
They said standard 1, I'll be going back to Canada. So I'm telling all my friends, I'm going back to Canada soon. I read standard 1, still here. Then they said standard 4. Like, you're not going to write SEA, long time, SEA. And I'm telling all of them, I'm not going to write SEA, like I'm going back to Canada. Still here. Still wrote it. At some point, I just kind of just like, I'm not going back. And then CXE, like, I had no idea. Like, I feel like we did not. The thought of getting out of here was a thing, but like to go to college for like Division 1 swimming was not an idea in a way. And then around 2022, I went World Juniors, and that was my first World Juniors ever. And I met my current coach, Rich Murphy, there, and I started talking to him and stuff like that about like school. Then my dad kept in contact with him, and he was like, I'm gonna go to America to swim at a Division 1 school. And that was like a whole new thing, because the only person I knew that went college for like swimming was Dylan at USC. So then I was excited to go, like to the point where I was like, Dad, when can I post? When can I post that I'm going to Tennessee? And he was like, not yet.
But was that again, the youth, these young people, the phone is always on. They have to keep tapped in and connected.
Alarm every day for training.
So how does that, Dylan? Like, was it to get out of Trinidad, or was it the feeling to move on, or to come out of parental rule, to be on your own, to be your own man? What did that look like?
I mean, look, I feel like most of the kids look at it as like a freedom in a kind of sense. But I mean, college, it's different from like down here, because my first semester up there, whole new environment, whole new change. Don't have them behind my back for homework. So you could imagine. And then all of a sudden, like my parents aren't taking me to school, like I could skip. And then, grade come back, like, damn, I have to lock in. And like that first semester, like they put me in astronomy for the Lord alone knows what. And it was an Indian guy, he had a strong accent. I'm sitting down in class, the lecture, scratching my head like, what is he talking about right now? 1 minute we're talking about apples and planets. And then after that, I was like, yeah, I gotta like, because
is it a desire to make the wrong choice? And I say that because, and again, I look at it through the lens of talking to my own son, you know, as we're talking father and son, and I see him doing certain things, and I say, you know what you're doing? He said, well, I know I'm doing the wrong thing. And I asked myself, in his eyes, I'm doing the wrong thing in your eyes. But in my eyes, I'm just doing me. Yeah. And so I'm saying that when we say make the right choice, you know what your dad would want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now that you're away, you can say, okay, I can skip class, I could get up late, I can do all of these things. Is it that that's maybe a dopamine rush to say, now do the things, or is it some form of rebellion?
I feel like all these years, like realistically, what kid from like secondary school down really wants to go to school in a sense, but the only reason they're going is because their parents are taking them, and like stuff like that, and the only reason they're doing homework is because their parents are making them do it. So I feel like as soon as the parents come out to like the play here, like you're like, oh, I'm on my own, like I don't gotta go to school, and they won't even know. But then, like, you get hit with consequences later on, and you be like, damn, now I actually have to do it. I mean, I didn't like going to school unless it was Fatima, because, I mean, not for the work, but, like, for my friends and stuff. But nowadays, I don't even, like, mind going to class, because just today, they were bashing me in the car, saying, I was like, they're like, you make any friends in class? I'm like, no, I kind of just sit there and stay quiet, like, I don't think they ever heard my voice before unless we get put in groups. And they'd be like, why you gotta talk to people? I was like, but if I talk to people, I'm like distracting people in class and I'm not paying attention. And they're like, no, you have to talk to them and make friends. And then I'm like,
you see, they tell you not to talk in secondary school, and now you're not talking.
And now you have to talk.
These old people and
these old people low key all the whole, you know. But
how you slang to?
so how do you feel because we reached that point that we have to close. I mean, I know this could go on for a long period of time.
And I'll give you an explanation for what you just asked.
And I want you to. But I also want to know. I want to, before we close, to also go into some of the lingo that's used. Do you feel like overwhelmed by it? I mean, by what some of the terms are, and that you may hear a lot of. I mean, I use a lot of, you know, sayings. So I would say monkey no treat a climb, and you know, cutlass don't leave don't leave mark in, you know, chop in water, you know, things like that. And I do, when you hear those things, or vice versa, do you feel like I can't keep up with sus and all of these types of?
I feel like he doesn't use like any old people lingo. I don't know. Do you hear me use like lingo that you don't understand?
No, because I guess jumping in a little bit. Remember that we are in an environment where we are no longer raising Trinidad and Tobagoan. We are raising global citizens, and these children and us are sung in the same all over the world. There's no difference. When I took him to Tennessee and he sat down there with those kids and them, it was like if he was always there. There was no difference. He was talking
just weird he's calling 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds kids.
The point I'm making is that in terms of the football that they was watching, in terms of the sport, in terms of the shows, they all do the same thing. There's no difference. There's no Trinidad and Tobagoan. What we are all global citizens now, and he's part of that environment as well.
You didn't agree with that? Why?
No, because when I first got there, what used to piss me off the most about Americans, they never understood me.
That's
so
right.
like Trinidadians, they talk fast. You know, we have our own slang and stuff like that. And I'm talking up there. What did you say? And I say it again. One more time, and then I just get fed up. And like, no matter how important it is, I'd be like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, but that's along the aspect of communicating how he sung. But I'm just saying to you, it was flawless. Because everything that what on our TV is what they look at the same way too. All the movies that we see here, they see there. There's no difference, really and truly. There's no difference. I think that the separation again will probably take place is you know, when you have your kid, you have to be making sure that you talk about the future, all these different things. So somewhere along the road, they will have a connection. When he was here, we did what we could have done in this space. And when he go on that side, he could only but remember what we were doing on a regular basis. So when he went to the other side and realized, but okay, well, I could do this, and I could do. You are now in control. You are no longer in the backseat of this car. You are now in the front seat of this car. So
and that's
you
when they
now
decide to make a choice. The choice is not necessarily choice in your eyes is the right choice, based on their upbringing, what they would consider right and wrong choice.
Well, let me tell you something. I will say. It's best you get these kids out there earlier because we're going to be making mistakes. You don't want this to be happening to a 30-year-old man.
Correct.
So you want and boys, and I'm not a girl.
If you're gonna fail fast,
do it now. Do it when it is in your early stages because you have time to go and recover. You have to watch the timeline as well. But remember, we learn from trial and error, and there's nothing wrong with failure. Failure is good. That means you're trying. What I have the problem with is not trying, and then you're saying failure. That is where my problem comes from. But if it is that you fail and you were trying, that's not failure. So I don't know where that came from, but that's the reality, is that I don't do it no more because I don't want to fail. But that's the nature of the beast. You have to fail to learn.
But they say success is a number of failures. But again, with the advent of social media, sometimes while you're going through that process, in our day, most of the time those things were maybe one or two people are around. Now something happens, you go in global, you viral, as they say. But I wanted to, you said you wanted to touch on.
When you asked if you choose to do the wrong thing, if somebody chooses to do the wrong thing, so I'll give you a difference in the physiological makeup of a male and female brain and why it's different even for men, right? Men learn more through experience, right? To say you know something means you experience it. If you never experience it, it's still theoretical.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it's theory, it don't really mean anything, especially to a man. So quickly, on a male brain, right, we have less connections between the left and the right side. So, just in layman's terms, one side is logical, one side is emotional, right? Women have more connections between the left and the right side. So with one action, for women, with one action, there's an emotion attached, right? And we go action, emotion, action. And so when you explain something typically to a young lady or a woman, she could think about it, feel the emotion of it, and say, "No, I don't want to experience that," and never do it. With a boy, it's less emotion and more technical. So if you tell me,
so you have to burn to learn.
Have to. A car skate down the hill. Now this for me. When I was young, my parents don't skateboard down the hill, right? Because you go hurt yourself. I hear what you're saying, but if only for it to be real, and you need to skateboard down the hill. And then I skateboard down the hill and a car come out and I had to jump off on my skateboard brake and I roll on the ground and thing up. And I was like, oh, okay. I know it now.
You're white man, as they say.
Right, I know it now. So now, whether I choose to do it again, I'll be more experienced or even applying it to something else. But with boys, we have to do. That's why back in the day, you used to send men boys at a young age at a rite of passage. So that's kind of what you're saying. It's better to do it early, send them away early, let them make the mistakes early so that you can learn.
I wanted to use your saying and all of that in your closing because I want you to look at the camera, which is your camera, and address what you're about to say to fathers who are looking on, or potential people who are going to be fathers, or people who even have a disconnect with their son and are now trying in their own way to course correct that, if not with that son, because it might be too late, with someone else or in their own environment. Just your own message to fathers.
Wait, I can send a message to kids too?
You after.
Yeah. I was going to say to know and not to do is not to know. And
say that again?
To know and not to do is not to know.
Okay.
A lot of times we say we know, but we don't do, so that we don't know. But to know and not to do is not to know. And to fathers, out there, these kids are assets. I'm using the word assets because they come from business. And they are us, and we are them. And we must protect them and protect their minds and their hearts and their souls to help them to elevate and move forward. That is our job. So just to have a kid and to leave the kid and for them to evolve is the wrong way. we must always be making sure to protect the family, protect the child, and to move them forward. We could only go but a couple stairs up, and we will then have to leave them for them to climb. Likewise, moving forward, we will never reach the top, but we will help them to start at a higher level. Our job is to allow them to start at a higher level that we started and let them go. And then they will take their families up. And the end of it, we will all make the top of the stairs together at some point in time.
Okay. Your message.
All right, my turn. I'm not saying anything inspirational like what he just said, but I spoke to Father Gregory today, and this is all you secondary school boys, especially the Fatima ones. Father said, y'all aren't fun or creative in terms of your trouble anymore. You're just on a phone. And I'm going to tell you all this. Back in my day, my phone used to give a lot of trouble. And we never used to be on our phones like during lunch and just sitting down there. So, I mean, cause it teaches a little trouble, especially the Fatima ones. And, make me feel a little proud.
And that's an important message you give there, because if teachers and educators could say oh God, all ain't give me any trouble, right? That means something serious going on. And I put it that because I remember one time, I can't remember exactly where I went, but it was a block, right? And back in the days, you used to have a thing about linemen on the block, but it's everybody in the block and the head down in the phone. And I was like, There's an interesting thing that I see, and I imagine, and now I start to feel old, because I remember when, and hear how bad it will sound, I remember when people used to be smoking on the block, right? If you understand. I remember when people used to be, quote unquote, up to no good on the block, but now they sit down on the phone on the block. And I say that because in all generations there will be differences, and I would say to anybody listening, acknowledge differences. Don't try to make this guy bring back the old time days. I understand the merit in the song, but it's impossible. No, the old time days old and it gone, right? And what it have is now. And even though I am an older person living in the now, right, that's fine, because it could bring a new essence state. But don't try to make things the same. The only constant is change. And I think change is an exciting thing. Sometimes an uncomfortable thing, but it's an exciting thing. And especially for us men, that's how we learn. We learn through doing something different. So good, I would say to anybody, if you can afford it or even can get the opportunity, go to our next
cause country. Trouble. Oh.
Yeah. Cause listen, the views expressed on this show, you ain't telling nobody children to give.
I'd say cause trouble.
Before we close, I just wanted to specifically speak to the young men out there, because you are at that point that you've crossed over into now probably connecting, and in hindsight looking back and saying, that's what my dad was trying to show me. And in your achievement, not just from a national level and the discipline and going over to college, you've ticked all the boxes that are certainly going to make your dad proud. But as a young man, the experiences you have learned and things that you might go, hey, you know what? I almost did these things, or I did these things, and I was fortunate that I still landed on my feet.
Yeah,
that's the kind of message I want you to just leave. One or two of those notes to a young man listening on who's looking up to you. And
I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but I said cause trouble. Don't get me wrong, but there's a certain extent you have to go. Like, I just do a bunch of dumb stuff for my entertainment. And, like going outside. Like, I'm not always, sometimes, he said he's a hybrid. I don't believe that. I think I'm more of a hybrid. I don't know why he's trying to act young. I'm more of a hybrid. Like, I'm on my phone most of the time, or I'm doing something dumb that I'm not supposed to. So I'm a hybrid. But I feel like there's a certain extent you have to go. Like, if you're an athlete especially, and you have a lot lined up for you, like, there's some things that you could do that could land you in serious trouble, and everything could disappear within like a snap of a finger. Like, I know a lot of my friends, they done a lot of I do dumb stuff, but they do dumber stuff, and they get them like everything just goes. But I feel like recently I went to line with my friends that I haven't seen in like 2 years, and we're just like all talking about, all these stupidness we used to do in class. And like
the old days.
Yeah, the old days. And like how we used to give teachers trouble and stuff like that. Like, we were talking about 2021, Father Gregory wasn't in office, and it was Miss Ramdas. We had a full-on water balloon fight in our school. Like, it was a war. And, like, looking back at those memories at, like, this age, and, like, I'm in my third year of college, like, it's fun to look back at that, and, like, we were like, we would go back to those 2 years and Fatima just not do schoolwork. But, like, even the kids nowadays, like, they just, as you said, like, just on the block on their phones and not really talking to anybody, like, they don't really have much to look on, like, into the future, like, dumb stuff he used to do.
When you look back on the good old days, it wouldn't have, because the good old days was on a phone.
Exactly. Which is why with Bertrand, I understand what he means by, and it's a beautiful thing to see, because everything's about a narrative. When he says a hybrid, you know, the hybrid is really, we know what it's like not to have that technology and what we did and enjoy and gave us those, concretize those types of memories that then now, if we have a phone, we can appreciate that and might even look at that technology to see maybe far-reaching things that we may have. For example, me being a hiker, I would now use social media to see areas in this world and experience things that I'm probably not going to be able to do in my lifetime, but I know I've had the real experiences of growing up. So my message would be really a very short one to say that everything's about a narrative, and we say we do dumb things, but dumb things are just really being a boy. And I'm not saying strap a shock collar to you. I mean, you shouldn't be using a shock collar anyway on a dog, right, or on any animal. Let's just put that out there. But just to say, or get shot with a pellet gun, because like I said, I mean, Nikolai is here today, thank God that he survived these things, but sometimes these things go wrong, and we sometimes hear or don't hear about these particular stories. So measure your quote-unquote dumb things that are simply being boys. I rather the skateboard going down the hill and you fall and you crack a bone or two. That is all part of it. But always remember, the one thing I'd like to leave you with, as a son, as anyone you call father, know that unconditionally, the one thing that any father wants more than anything in this world is for you to be better than he was. So with that, Bertrand, thank you. Nikolai, Johanse, always a pleasure. We spoke about generational differences. It's always a conversation that's ongoing, and we live and we learn. We don't always have to burn and learn. With the technologies out there, we could learn and live. And this has been ManHOOD.
ManHOOD, brought to you in part by Solomon Bespoke.
You're watching CNC3.